So super excited for this Biomechanics coach interview to have Tommy along. Tommy is a Biomechanics coach, and I'm going to allow him to introduce himself and tell you some really exciting things about his experience during lockdown. So Tommy, do you want to tell the people who are watching who you are, what you're about, and your profession? Because you're a bit of a hybrid, aren't you?
Good morning, everyone. Yes, I am a health and fitness coach, and I help people dial in on their gut health. Now, I help mainly business owners because some time ago, I was struggling. I was at the point where I was trying to run a business, personal training business, but my health was really declining. It had been for a long time. And obviously, as most of you will know, that if you're owning a business, you have to do everything in that business. And without your health, those things aren't getting done. You know, you can't just take some days off sick. You can't just go on holiday when you want. You are running that whole business and every aspect of it. So you need to be running at peak performance. And that is what I want to that is what I'm helping other people do, just achieve closer to peak performance by focusing on their gut health, because I believe how we look, think, feel, and function is largely determined by our gut health.
Because your background is in personal training, isn't it? Originally, when I met you, you were a personal trainer, and you just said to me before we started this video that actually, when you were doing our biomechanics coach diploma, you were in probably the worst health place yourself at that point. So, how is that affecting you as a personal trainer in your business?
I was in one of the worst places I'd been ever. And I was getting up in the morning to train clients, and I was just looking at myself and thinking to myself, you are not a picture of health. How on earth can you be helping people when you're in such poor health yourself? And to be honest, with you, when I first done the personal training course, I was in a bad place then as well. And again, I was saying to myself, how can you help other people when you're in this place yourself? But I didn't know what to do to get out of it. And I was coming into the biomechanics course, which I really enjoyed actually. It was fantastic. But I was coming in there, and yeah, I was in a bad place, really bad way. It wasn't just one thing; it was a number of different things. You know, it was so many things, and I don't want people feeling like that themselves. And I think, you know, for us to be able to run our businesses, it's easy to get sidetracked. You know, it's easy to get to the point where we're doing so many things that we're not looking after ourselves. But like a slow accumulation over time, that builds up, and we get to the point where we just hit a brick wall and something has to give. So along the way, I want to help people achieve peak performance through their gut health.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you touched on quite a few things. So we're actually in lockdown. So we're recording this. It's February the 18th, and we've been in lockdown almost a year now. And so what you talk about is probably what people would define as burnout. But burnout can be caused, I'm sure, as you know, as you'll share, by several things. But I think where I've seen a difference in you from when we trained you several years ago as a biomechanics coach, and seeing you now, I can see such a difference in your energy, you know, the way you're putting your information and your message across on social media has just changed so dramatically. Now, I mean, back then I thought you were a really switched on PT when you were doing your diploma. But then now I'm looking at you and it's like something's happened, something's changed, that's allowed you to really find a passion and a purpose, which clearly is your own personal experience. And I think that's where you can resonate with anybody watching this who is a personal trainer or a biomechanics coach or just a small business owner feeling like maybe this lockdown is an opportunity to understand better how their gut health might be holding them back or contributing to how they feel. So, in terms of your own experience, you know, what happened? What was the tipping point for you, and what did you find as a solution?
I feel like it was like a slow accumulation over time. You know, I was mismanaging, myself. Okay, I was still exercising, but diet was pretty poor. And as a result of that, my energy was so low all the time that I felt like I needed energy drinks, and while I was drinking these, obviously I wasn't hydrating with water and just the simple things like that. And I just did not know where to turn. I didn't know what to do. And I was using so many things to cover up the symptoms. I was back and forth to doctors, and just constantly searching. And I think for so many people, we have to hit quite a low before we actually do something about it. And we're operating from like a reactive approach. Everything's a reactive approach. When we get, this, we take this for it, sort of thing. But I want to teach people to actually start looking at more of a preventative approach. And I think so many people have no idea of how good they should actually feel, energy wise, and looking, thinking, feeling, and functioning just better in general.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I totally agree. And sadly, it is a reaction to things rather than preventing. And we specialize, you and I specialize in prevention. The Biomechanics Coach Diploma is injury prevention. Your gut health recommendations are about preventing the burnout. So, how can we, do you think, get the message across for people to do it as a prevention rather than a reaction? So, what would you say to somebody maybe watching this? They're feeling a bit knackered. They're thinking, oh, maybe it's my gut health. What would you say to them right now?
I think everyone wants a quick fix, don't they? It's not so sexy to be talking about prevention, is it? Everyone wants that quick fix. But I always say to people, if you listen to your body when it whispers, you will never have to hear it scream. If you listen to that first, some people might get the odd headache, some people might have a day where they're feeling a little bit low here and there, but the longer they keep, if we always do what we've always done, we'll always get what we've always got, plus a little bit more. If we listen to those little signs, it is a signal, a bit like the light coming up on the dashboard of our cars. We wouldn't just stick a piece of tape over that and carry on driving, would we? We would sort the problem out. And I think all these little things, whatever they may be, are a signal to us, telling us that it is time to start focusing a little more on nourishing the body or taking some time for ourselves. Because if we don't do this, it builds up over time, and before we know it, we'll just hit a brick wall. We'll just come to a stop, and it could just stop everything. So I think it is so important for us to look after the four: nutrition, hydration, sleep, and movement daily. A little bit of focus on them daily, will keep us moving towards where we want to be.
And I guess, lockdown, it sounds like from what you've been saying, again, before we started recording this, lockdown's almost given you even more of an opportunity for yourself and then passing this over to clients. So right now we're in lockdown. If someone's watching this, what would be like, let's say, so you say the big four, what would be your four major tips right now, top tips? What did you mention? Food, hydration, sleep, and movement. Are there kind of like just some bullets that you would give somebody watching this about, right, you're in lockdown, just focus on this, 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 and this, and in what nutrition, what hydration? How would you, what top tips would you give for each one, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, obviously lockdowns affected so many people in so many different ways, but I think one of the biggest, what are people doing less of in lockdowns? So many people are exercising less. What do people do less when they exercise less? They tend to eat a little bit. They think, oh, no point eating healthy food. I'm not exercising, so what's the point? And I think it all has a knock-on effect. So in terms of the four, I'd say nutrition, hydration, sleep, and movement. If people can focus, nutrition, for example, staying a little bit closer to nature, because most of what we're eating is coming out of a box or a packet sort of thing. Even myself back then, it was mainly boxed or packaged food. So if we can stay a little bit closer to nature now, I always used to see you, Rachel, on breaks eating your raw broccoli and your raw carrots and everything, but you're a picture of health as well yourself. Yeah, you've got it there as well, you know. So if we can stay a little bit closer to nature in terms of what we are eating, because inside of our stomach, as you know, we've got loads of little bacteria living there, and they feed off of foods that grow. And when we feed our body foods that grow, we are feeding these bacteria. Now, these bacteria make all of the things that we want. Think B12 for energy. You know, people are going out getting B12 jabs, you know, to give them a little bit more energy, sort of thing, when really we could be creating more of that ourselves right down there in our belly. Serotonin, the happy chemical, created down there in our belly. But if we are not feeding our bacteria foods that grow, we are struggling to create some of them things. So staying as close to nature as possible with our nutrition, taking a little bit of time to get our daily dose of movement. Now, obviously, you're so big on this as well. It could be walking, it could be cleaning, it could be doing anything. Our bodies are made to move, so we have really got to dedicate a little bit of time each day for that. And our sleep, you know, it's so easy to sit there. You know, we might have our businesses all on our phones, so it's so easy to keep putting more time into that. But having a cut-off point, you know, we need to look after the one tool that we are using to go through life, which is our body. And when that starts to, you know, when things start to crop up, you know, we're going to hit a brick wall. So focusing on those four, I would say a little bit daily would be pivotal to our health.
You know, it so resonates, everything you're saying. And I'm kind of like, you know, I remember you many years ago in the, as I say, in the classroom doing the Biomechanics coach diploma, and then listening to you now, and it's like, yes, that's exactly, you know, it's like you found your purpose now, and all your words really resonate with me. The prevention concept, just a little bit, you know, don't think of movement as exercise. Movement is just move. You know, the idea of sleep. I mean, I would imagine, I'd like to think that most people right now can actually get more sleep. One of the things lockdown has brought us is time. Certainly initially, you know, time was there, and the luxury of that is where I think that first lockdown for a lot of people actually felt almost slightly joyous. And I'm aware there was like a horrific side to it as well, so I don't want to underplay that. But the sun was out, people were getting furloughed, so they were getting paid. They could sleep, they had time. It was like all of a sudden they could get things done, and the gardens were getting done, and you know the garden centres were getting busy. And but then you're coming into this third one, and like you say, there's almost this, everyone's fed up, so you lose that inspiration to just eat better. You think, oh, what's the point? And I've had this third lockdown. You know, I've had the studio built now, which is great. It's a luxury. But to get motivated on my own, to get in a move, I mean, I do it because everything you're saying is logical. But, you know, and I sleep well, I've always slept well, but I have had those moments. My thing is probably hydration. And, you know, I've kind of got to a point where I'm like, right, I'm in lockdown, I've got nothing to look forward to. My vice, I have to confess, is cans of Pepsi Cola, and yes, the full fat sugary ones. I don't drink, I don't really do fast food. It's kind of the one vice. And I guess that's the excuse I'm making in my head. And I found a phase where I wasn't drinking any water. Sorry, I was drinking water in the morning, first thing. But then the rest of the day, I'd be like, I'm going to have a can of pop. I might have another can of pop. Because I bought, you know, and it was like, Rach, what are you doing? So I totally hear you. And I think the reason I wanted to say that, Tommy, is I think it's important for people like you and I, when people are watching us talk like this, they don't think that we are an unrealistic, oh, well, you would never do that. Because we've both come from, my lifestyle before this was really unhealthy. I won't go into it on here, but it was probably the most unhealthy you could imagine in my 20s. I know that you've shared the idea of drinking the energy drinks. I went through all of that as well. You know, you have to get up and do your classes. So I think it's important for people like you and I who are trying to share our message to be honest about where we've come from, and let people know it is normal, but we're here to help, right? So,
That's right.
and I think that's what you want to communicate, don't you, through this particular message, this video, isn't it? Is how you can help.
Definitely. And I say to people, it's not what we do all of the time, because you're saying, about your cans of Coke and that's your little vice, but what are you doing the majority of the time? You're living well. And it's not what we do all of the time. It's not also what we do some of the time. It's what we are doing most of the time. And, everyone's going to have their own little vice, but I think we've all got a little volume switch on us, When we start to veer away from the nutrition, hydration, sleep and movement, we start to turn that volume switch up a little bit. And if we can recognize when we're doing that, because we have all the power to turn that volume switch up, but we also have the power to turn it right back down. And when it's down, we are getting things done. We're feeling good. We're at peak performance, So recognizing what we are doing. And like you say, doing that getting that daily movement in, because even if people don't really feel like it so much, it's going to have a knock-on effect in everything else,
Yeah, I often use the word consistency.
Mm.
If you consistently do a little bit of each of the big four that you're talking about, get some decent sleep, drink water, then you can get away with a can of Pepsi. If that's your vice,
Yeah.
or a pint of lager or whatever it is, or a burger or something. So I think as long as you're consistently, and there's always the 80-20 from, I can't remember who it was who originally talked about the 80-20 rule. And I've always felt that, if I tip out of the 80-20 into a 60-40, oh, right, and just bring it back again, which is where I've been over lockdown. And so I think it's being honest from our perspective. We're educated in nutrition and movement and so on and so forth. Even when we're educated in it and common sense is there, you still have a vice. Are you happy? Would you be happy to share your vice? Have you still got a vice?
Yeah, I've got vices, yeah. But what I do, for example, I follow a way of eating. Like I said, I try and stay as close to nature as possible. So, for example, I done it yesterday. I make these chocolate cakes, right? I love cake. But I make them, I use things like, instead of using all the wheat flour and all these sort of things that I know turn my volume switch up, I swap it now for ground almonds, So I'm using ground almonds. I'm using stevia instead of sugar, little things like that. But my vice is overeating on all the good stuff, So even though it's good stuff, I'll have a big binge of it. But I say to people, if you can make that food taste good, you're more than likely to stick to it. So yeah, that my vice is a big binge, a big binge of food.
Because you're a big guy, and obviously, you've got some muscle and it needs feeding, so you need calories in. So I think one of the challenges I've always been faced with is eating the close to nature. Like I love raw veg salad. I could just eat that all day, constantly. Fruit, I love. But there's not huge amounts of calories in the veggies, which are the ones they're saying eat loads of those. So the time it takes to chew it takes a long time, with busy people. And also the calorie benefit is actually nominal, yet there's loads of other good stuff. I'm not downplaying that. You still need calories if you're going to do a class and then go for a run and then coach people and move around all day, as we're suggesting. Actually, you need a load of calories in. So it's making sure, I think one of my issues is making sure I can get enough calories in that are clean enough. Do you know what I mean? And I find that a bit of a balance. Do you think that's potentially one of the causes of when you overeat, or is that just you just love cake?
I just love my cakes. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the foods that I eat are really high fat anyway. They're really high fat, especially like using ground almonds in my baking. I make rolls with ground almonds, so plenty of calories and all that. But yeah, like you say, I mean, all these veggies, raw veggies and salads, they don't have a lot of calories. So you have to find your way, but I've seen you snacking on nuts and bits like that as well. So getting your fats in, getting your calories up that way for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's important to know that fat is good as long as it's the right,
Definitely.
the right amount. So I love like avocados, nuts. I make my own kind of oats, like muesli with all nuts and everything in that. So I get that. But so just pulling back then to right now, how do you think lockdown is going to affect the health and fitness industry, like long term? What's your prediction?
Well, I think all these lockdowns are really going to have a huge impact on people's health. huge, absolutely huge. And I think people in general are going to need fitness professionals more than ever in the coming years. More than ever, I think this is going to have such an impact on people's health. So I think if fitness professionals can adapt, whether that's going online or whatever, if they can adapt, then there's going to be so much work for everyone out there. I think, yeah, I think it's going to be, I think it's really going to go well for the fitness industry anyway.
I totally agree. But do you think we're equipped to deal with it?
I think we can be. I think if people are willing, because like for me, doing the online stuff was way out of my comfort zone. I'm still learning now. I'm not a very technical person at all, but we have to adapt. We're getting our clients to adapt to things, so we must be able to take our own advice as well. And if we can adapt for that, then yeah, I think it could be a really good thing for
Yeah,
us as well.
you come over great, by the way. I've seen your little videos and your personality coming through. And I think you're right. I've had this conversation with quite a few personal trainers, biomechanics coaches. There's no point in waiting for lockdown to finish. This is it now. We've almost just been shunted forwards technically 10 or 20 years. This is where we were going to end up. So I think you're right. But I think maybe the industry needs to try and vision the direction we're going in, the mental health aspect of training clients, the communication, the soft skills, the ability to talk with the medics, because they've been able to carry on practicing through lockdown, whereas we haven't. And yet we're shouting our corner saying, we're part of keeping the nation from using the NHS, which is why I think sort of CPDs and education is so important in all the arenas you're talking about. Nutrition, hydration, sleep, movement. Maybe we add in there the psychology and the mindset and the ability to do that with clever questioning. But I think I do agree with you. I think it is shifting. So in terms of, do you think there are any misconceptions about what we do, in maybe in terms of the biomechanics side of things? Do you come across common misconceptions around that?
Well, I'll tell you how I was before I'd done the course with you. I was one of these typical trainers, like tight hip flexors, weak glutes. Everyone's got tight hip flexors and weak glutes. If you're sitting down most of the day, you've got tight hip flexors and weak glutes. However, you taught us, unless we are testing, we're just guessing really, and yeah, I did think this way of a lot of people, and I know there's so many other trainers that think like this. I even hear, normal people, just even clients that have cottoned onto this as well. But yeah, unless we are testing, then we really don't know. And in many cases, that, as you've shown, that is not always the case at all. We can't just guess. Yeah, and having these screens that we can use, really gives us a picture of what is really going on. And I feel like every trainer should really think about doing a course like this, because when you're doing the actual personal trainer course, it's okay, squat with your feet hip width apart, and everything's got to be like this. But everybody's bodies are different and function different. So yeah, I think there's a big misconception there.
That's really great. Thanks for sharing that. So, have you got? Do you read books?
Oh yeah, every day.
Are you an audiobook reader, like listener, or a reader? You're a reader.
Paperback.
So, favorite book recommendation for anybody listening?
Yeah, I've read so many books lately, but I want to say one that's like going to appeal to a lot of people. So it's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a. It is brilliant.
Yeah.
I really recommend it actually to anyone. It's a great book.
Yeah, right now I think that's really relevant, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Not giving a FUCK. Well, it's starred out, isn't it, on the book? I think.
Yeah.
So okay. Well, if you could. Okay, so somebody's listening to this and they're like, I really like what Tommy's saying. How can they find you? Who does your business serve, and how can they find you? Have you got a web address or a Facebook page that people could come and find you on?
So at the moment, I'm only using Facebook and Instagram. I don't have a website or anything like that. You can find me on those. Tommy Berrabe, Berrabe, Berrabe. And I'm serving mainly business owners because that's somewhere that's where I was some time ago, struggling, as I've said, helping business owners because I don't want you to go through what I've gone through, you know. And if we can get the one tool that we use for everything in our life functioning well, then it has a knock-on effect on absolutely everything. So yeah, business owners is who I'm helping, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram.
Brilliant. And before I let you go, just to sort of like for my own benefit, if somebody was thinking about becoming a biomechanics coach, what would you say to them? What was your favourite thing? And how would you? What would if they said to you, "Should I do it?" What would you say?
I'd say do it because you're going to gain an understanding of movement that you won't gain in just doing a personal training course. You know, it covers so many more things, and it will open your eyes to things that you never would have thought before, and it will give you that understanding as why your client can't squat, or what people see these things. I know a lot of other personal trainers, and they've got clients that can't squat, so they just think, oh, we'll get them doing something else then. But if you had the tools to get them to be able to squat, then it would open up a lot more doors. So I would say yes, I would go for it for that reason. And what was the other
What
thing?
was your favourite thing? So, like, obviously, we've got the face to face coming through. Then you did the case studies. What was your favourite part of the experience of going through the training? Do you think?
Well, when we was learning, your teaching was really helped me in the sense that you got all these discussions going, and you didn't tell us the answer to these things. You sort of let us discuss, and we would come to the answer ourselves, and that really helped me massively. I enjoyed doing the case study as well. That was a big thing for me because I actually got some great results for one of my clients. Shall I go into that now?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Briefly, I'll keep it brief. But one of my clients, she couldn't even put her hands on her hips. She had like a shoulder problem. She couldn't tie her own hair. She was getting her daughter to do that for her. And all I had done was followed the system that you gave us, starting with the pelvis, spine, shoulders, knees, and feet. And just by following the system, she was able to, do some of these things that she hadn't been able to do in years. And I love the system because, we all do the same thing. All us biomechanics coaches do the exact same thing. There's no one doing it differently. It's a system you follow. So you sort of can't go wrong with it, and you can get creative with the exercises you use and everything like that. But having the system was what helped me massively, So there's no guessing. It's just following that. And if you follow that, you might start on the pelvis and then might not get anywhere. So you move on to the next part. But as you've taught us, every single part of the body is connected, you know. So yeah, having that system helped massively. Love it.
Amazing. I remember that one actually as well. So thanks for sharing that. So you can find Tommy. I'm really excited to have caught up with you, by the way. So you can find him over on Facebook, Instagram. Go and check his things out. Definitely think about the big four, or if we add in mental health maybe as a fifth one. Tommy's nodding; he's up for that as well. But thanks ever so much, Tommy. I hope we can sort of meet again at some point when we come out of the restrictions. And gather again in some social event or maybe another training course. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. No, that sounds good.
But I know you've got a client, so I'll let you get on. Thanks ever so much, Tommy.
Thank you very much, Rachel.
Take care, buddy.
Yeah, you too.